Hi everyone, my name's Kieran and welcome to my YouTube channel. This channel will be sort of a mismatch of different things to start with. I'm going to start with some football content at the moment. As you can see on screen, I've got the Wolves squad up, which is the team I support. I'm going to go through the current squad, the squad depth, how pre-season's gone, and some of the sort of rumoured transfers and the transfers I'd personally like to see happen at Wolves. That won't be all this channel is. I'll also be looking to do some Pokemon Nuzlocke, some other sort of games I enjoy, some FPL content which I'll look to get out soon, just before the start of the season tomorrow, and I'll also be talking about sort of some D&D stuff, tabletop role-playing games in general, and I'm considering doing reviews of the games that come out on Game Pass each month for Xbox. So I'm going to jump straight into the current Wolf squad. As you'll see on your screen, I've got the current squad up now, including the depth. This is what I would say is Wolves' strongest starting 11. And then the cover at the moment. So for our game against Leeds, Raul Jimenez will be out. He's injured. He's looking out for anywhere between sort of 4 to 6 weeks of the season, which is obviously a big blow for Wolves, not having any cover striker, with Fabio Silva going out on loan. I think it's a really good loan for Fabio Silva, but he definitely would have got minutes at Wolves. But I can see the appeal for sending him out on loan to the Belgian league to score a lot of goals, build his confidence, and come back ready-made next year to be part of the first team squad. Neto, Gibbs White and Podence. I'll be surprised if all three of these don't start the game. Whether Podence will be in a sort of more forward role where Jimenez is, and these will turn into a front three with Dendoncker added amongst Neves and Moutinho in the midfield, I'm not sure. But apart from that, this team looks like the exact team that will start. Neto, Podence and Gibbs White are all great players. Gibbs White looks ready to explode onto the scene this season. In pre-season especially, everything he did was just one touch, passed it off, one touch, or ready to dribble at defenders if needed, but it was just such quick decision making and passing, which is something you don't see that often in someone his age. Neto looks like he's come back to as good as he was before his injury. He suffered a long-term injury that kept him out for quite a while, but he looks ready-made for this season to just really press on to be on the level that Jota was when we sold him on to Liverpool. Both of these two, just so you're aware, are only 5.5 in FPL, and I think both of them would show great value. Then we've got Neves, Moutinho. The midfield depth at Wolves is shocking, which I'll explore in the transfer section in a minute. I've got a second team set up with some ideas of who I'd like to see in. I'll explain my choices and why I was looking at doing them. The only real depth behind them is a youth player, Luke Kundle, who played a couple games last season. Really tidy on the ball, really good at holding possession, moving with the ball and making good passes. So I'm confident that he'll maintain being part of the team. I personally think he could do with a loan just to get that regular game time week in, week out. But Wolves just don't have the squad depth to let him go at this point. And then the only other senior midfielder recognised in the team is Dendoncker. Dendoncker is fine as a Wolves fan. You'll always know who he is on the pitch because he runs like he thinks he's a choo-choo train with his arms going. But he's a solid midfielder if unimaginative, and him being the only depth option does mean a serious injury to Neves or Moutinho could be really bad for Wolves this season. The cover for the attacking midfield options, we've got Hwang. Some people would say he's a striker. He can play there. He might start in place of Raul at Leeds due to the injury. But I think some of his best work comes when he's working off of the left and running in behind, sort of intermixing with the other wingers and his separate striker. Supporting Gibbs White, I've got Connor Ronan. There's a question mark next to him because he's come back. He's looked good in pre-season. He had a really good loan last year. But he's 24 and been on, I think, 8 loans now from Wolves. So there is question marks over his game, and I can see him being loaned out rather than kept as another option. His delivery from crosses and set pieces looks really good. He apparently really impressed the team and the manager while training with them. But whether it's enough to keep a place as that sort of backup attacking mid is yet to be seen. And I've got Chiquinho here, who really promising young winger for Wolves. but unfortunately was injured in pre-season, which is why there's an X next to him. The other cover for this right side would be Adama Traore. I don't believe Adama Traore will be at Wolves at the end of the window, and if he is, I don't think he'll get much playtime. He might come on because Lage wants to keep his value ready, but there's not long left of his contract. The manager doesn't seem to like him. I don't see him staying. Personally, I'm perfectly happy for him to go for even 10 million to even to a Premier League rival. The finishing's just not there. The decision making, that action in the final third is just really, really lacking from Adama. And I don't, at this point, I'm not sure it can even be coached into him. I think he's always going to be one of those players where people go, wow, physically he was amazing, but he never achieved anything. He's like a reverse Dimitar Berbatov, who had like an incredible football mind, but I don't think I ever saw him run. Then we've got the back line. We've got Aitnori, again, 19 or 20, really good talent, great left back, flies up and down the field, and his defensive work is improving game in, game out. Kilman is the best defender at Wolves. There's no doubt in my mind on it. He is an incredible defender. His futsal background means that he's a great passer with the ball. He scored an amazing goal in pre-season. Like, took it from 20 yards out from our goal, length of the pitch, did two of the defenders, and then put it into the far corner. Collins is a new addition at Wolves. Nathan Collins came in from Burnley, very young as well. Really solid player. Looked really tidy in pre-season. Heaps of praise from the Burnley fans. They were so annoyed that we got him for just 20 million. I really think this could be a pairing for Wolves for 5-6 years that would just be completely solid at the back. And then Semedo, I've put his first choice right back. It will be Johnny starting the Leeds game because of an injury to Semedo. Johnny could be cover on either side, but I've not put him after Aitnori just to sort of highlight how low the depth is in this Wolves squad. And then I've put Cody and Totti as our backups for centre-back. Cody's club captain. He is great. I'm not sure how he's going to do in the 4-back. Lage has been looking to switch to a 4-back, playing in much the shape I've got on screen now for pre-season. He has still toyed with the 3-back, and he wants the team to be confident in both. But it definitely looks like this season Lage is trying to get back to the attacking style of football that got him brought in from Portugal, the one that made Fosun and the owners attracted to him in the first place. And I'm really hoping that this season that does stick. So Cody being a bit smaller and not as experienced in the back four, I'm sure he can do it. But I think this is a stronger pairing than one of these two plus Cody. Totti came back from a loan last season when we had two players at the African Cup of Nations, Willy Bolly and Seiss. Seiss has left, and I've not included Bolly in the squad, as I feel, again, he's a player we could potentially sell to make some money, and he just has a tendency to switch off. Ever since he joined Wolves, every now and then he just switches off entirely, not even ball watches, just forgets the game is happening. And when on his day, he's an incredible defender, but in the Premier League, having off days is enough to make you not a starter. And when you've got 4 centre-backs like the ones on screen, it's enough to make you not even in the top 4. In goal, I've got Jose Sarr, Wolves player of the season last season. Incredible value when we bought him. Again, quite a good pickup in FPL. I think he's 5 million now. Also, for the record, Aitnori is only 4.5. If he does start every week over Johnny, he's great value. And if not, Johnny is the same price. So if you're looking for a Wolves defender in the squad or just a 4.5 defender, you're not sure who to go for, Johnny and Aitnori offer attacking threat, and Wolves over the last 4 seasons have been a defensively sound squad. Our backup keeper Sarhic, not many people know, but he had a really good loan at Birmingham last season, has been performing well the last few seasons out on loan, and is being heaped praise on by members of the club, the other players, which can only be good for him. He's a full international for his country, and I'm confident he'll be a really good backup to Sarr and really push him to make sure he kicks on as a good keeper. Now I'm going to go through sort of some of the options. Some will be rumours that are currently about. Some will be rumours that I think would be really good options for Wolves. And it is a bit scattergun. I've not done a full team because I think we're solid in goal. We're solid at centre-back entirely. The wingers, I think we've got quite good depth. Although if I did have to put an honourable mention, I wouldn't mind getting Dennis from Watford. Can can play sort of anywhere in a front three, just be really good for squad depth. And then, so here's the signings we've been looking at. Ben Burton Diaz from Blackburn, 23, scored over 20 goals in the Championship last season. I actually put him up as a player Wolves should potentially sign on Twitter about 6 days before the interest was officially announced, so felt very much like a Wolves scout at that point. And then Michy Batshuayi from Chelsea has been linked as a loan deal to cover for this season. A 1 year loan I think is quite good for Wolves at the moment, because Jimenez is still going to be first choice, you'd imagine, regardless of the target. And then Fabio Silva will be back next year. And from watching him, as much as he gets slated for his price tag and his goal return, the way he plays and the way he brings other players into the game, he's one of those he was thrown in too soon, and it's made a lot of people judge him. But when you watch him, you know there's a really quality player in there, and I'm very excited to see that next season. Then we've also got Goncalo Ramos, who's been linked from Benfica. He scored a hat-trick in their European qualifiers, so it's very unlikely we'll get him. Wolves have been consistently linked for 4 or 5 weeks. And Broja is just one that I've added. Again, I think he'd be a really good loan from Chelsea. If we get a loan with an option to buy and just offer them a buyback, I think that'd be a really good option. He offers something different to Jimenez, and I think he just really fit well, because as much as he's a large player at Southampton, I was watching him and he was getting in behind, really on that last ball. So interchanging with the front three of Gibbs White, Neto and Huang, and Podence or Huang could be really, really good for him. The same with Burton Diaz. Out of the four, I'm perfectly happy with any. I think signing a player is generally better for Wolves, because Jimenez is, I think, 30 already, maybe 31 this season. So we should be sort of planning for that. Obviously, Fabio Silva would be looking to come in as a replacement, but if we get someone like Ben Burton Diaz, who's 23, if he works from the Championship, that's great. If he can get anywhere between sort of 8 to 10 goals, that'd be a good success, I'd say, behind Jimenez. And then he would be, if he's in that position, he'd be happy to take the role behind Fabio Silva, you imagine, or compete with him when Fabio Silva becomes the number one at the club. And if he doesn't work, it's 20 million, which can seem expensive, but at 23, he'd have a couple of years to sort of grow into it. He would be in a support role, and at least Wolves have that squad depth, which we're really missing, especially when a lot of people forget this is a 5-sub season. And I have a feeling that will probably continue to be 5 subs going forward from this point on. And the depth at Wolves just means 2 to 3 off the bench, and then you're looking at youth players or just extra defenders, which aren't helpful when you're looking to attack or move forward. Either of the loans from Chelsea, Broja or Batshuayi, I'd be perfectly happy with. As I explained before, 1 year's cover's quite good. Wolves are in a good position for that at the moment. And I like both of the players, so I wouldn't mind Batshuayi just getting that extra year for his career in the Prem. I've always thought he was an underrated player and enjoyed watching him play. Attacking midfield is less a position of need, because Gibbs White is there. If we're ever short a player, we can go sort of Huang can play there, Neto or Podence can move across the middle, and one of the others can play on the sides. That sort of cam position is quite fluid in this Wolves team. But if I was going to pick a player for it, I'd quite like Conor Gallagher. Although he's not a traditional cam, he's very much, his movement and energy, you would feel that same sort of role as Gibbs White, dropping in, making space for the other players, being able to pass on and off. And we know from last season at Palace he can shoot and he can score goals. The left back position isn't as urgent. I've got Maitland-Niles here and in midfield, because I think if Wolves could get Maitland-Niles, it would be excellent. The reason he's turned down moves in the past is because he wants midfield minutes, not fullback minutes. Wolves can offer that with, at the moment, Neves, like I say, just 3 recognised senior midfielders. Neves, a 36-year-old Moutinho, and Dendoncker. We could offer Maitland-Niles those minutes and just have him as the option then to fill in at left or right back if needed. Say if we had an injury to one fullback and a suspension to another, that leaves us with one recognised fullback. And we'd be looking at playing Hugo Bueno, who is a very talented young left back, but again, in the Premier League, you need a little bit more time and a little bit more practice for that. Gonzalez is behind that. Is Barcelona player who's been linked for loan to us. This is a very recent one. I don't have a huge amount of information on him. There was rumours he'd be involved in a swap deal when Barcelona were rumouring interest in Neves. He was one of the players linked with that swap, and it's come back up again. Whether this is just paper talk to try and get him a move or a new deal, I don't know. Or if it's just Barca trying to make some money to deal with their financial crime and however they arrange all these signings while having no money. We'll wait and see. But Maitland-Niles for me would be, out of these midfielders, the most. If Wolves could only get one, I'd pick Maitland-Niles. Despite him not being the best of these players, that versatility to cover fullback and midfield would fix a lot of problems at Wolves, and I think he'd be willing to make that move because of the clear prospect of midfield minutes, not only this season but going forward. I've put Renato Sanchez in. He's been linked with Wolves every season pretty much since we got promoted. His current value is being talked about 17 million, and despite all his injury issues, at 17 million I think you have to go for Renato Sanchez. He'd take less time to bed in than some of these other ones, having played regularly with Neves and Moutinho internationally, which should help. The Portuguese coach and the Portuguese players around him could help again with that sort of bedding in process. There'd be a lot of familiar faces around the club for him, so you imagine he'd be able to settle in quicker. If we can get a pairing of him and Neves going, and sort of he resolves those fitness issues and those injury issues, that could be a great midfield, a lot of energy, and then even sometimes maybe a free of them drop one of the midfields, or he could play in that sort of attacking role where Gallagher is now, sort of covering there as well. I've put Sander Berg because I just think he's too good to be in the Championship, and there's not a huge amount of height in the Wolves midfield. Neves and Dendoncker are both fairly tall, but Dendoncker doesn't. The way he plays, he's moving up and down the pitch. He's never holding that mid and that centre when a ball's being kicked or hoofed. It's usually one of Moutinho or Neves competing for it. So just Sander Berg in there. Again, I imagine for 20 million, you could probably prize him away. And again, he's got time on his side. He can progress. We've seen him play at this level before, and I think he could be a good signing. Sangare would be potentially my dream signing. It gives a more defensive player to sit next to Neves, which lets Neves express himself and get more forward, which in the Championship we saw him do to great effect, and it really improved him being alongside someone like Roman Saiss when he used to play there as CDM, or Dendoncker when he was more defensive. But definitely alongside Saiss in the Championship was when we saw the best of Neves, I'd say, because he had that freedom to sort of run the pitch. Grilic I've put in because, as far as I'm aware, at this current time, he's still a free agent. He's only 26. He's a really good DM from the Bundesliga. I like him a lot as a player, and I think, again, he could free up Neves entirely and just give Wolves something a little bit different in the midfield. Just a little bit more bite and a little bit more grit to really help the team overall. Above Maitland-Niles here at left back or right back cover, I've got Ryan Giles, which would be a recall from his loan. He actually got a hat-trick of assists in the first half on his pre-season debut. He's a great player as a fullback, tall, attacking. He's good defensively. He's got a lot of height, and his delivery is one of the best I've seen. Lots of people say he's the best at the entire club for his delivery and how he can whip across. And from seeing his performances just in that pre-season game, the free deliveries were excellent. He's a really good professional. He's been at the club for a long time, and I really think he could do a lot to help this Wolves team. There's a few sort of honourable mentions that I'd have who didn't really make this first mix but could be good options. There's been a lot of talk about Tottenham being interested in taking Adama Traore. Conte's been a big fan for a couple seasons, and if he were to try and go, Tottenham are looking at offload and Ndombele. If we could use Adama to lower a deal for that, bring him in. I don't know if he's a good fit for this club at the moment, but we just need midfield depth badly. A better option would be as if we could try and use Adama to leverage, get potentially Højbjerg. Now that they've signed Basuma from Brighton, potentially that's more flexible. I don't see it happening. I think Højbjerg will be a big part of Conte's plans because he's a good quality player. Another option I was thinking of is Arsenal are still looking to offload Torreira. Again, just to give a little bit more scrappiness in midfield, and at this point, just the extra body. Wolves are also linked with Almeida out of Portugal, at about 8 million. At 8 million, we need the squad depth. I'd take the gamble on him. He's a youth player. He's highly rated amongst Portuguese youth system. It seems like a no loss move, so we could give it a go. I mentioned Emmanuel Dennis before. He did look really good at Watford. I think in a support role in this team, playing either off the wings, in behind that striker, or as the striker, he could get up to 10 goals in this season, which Wolves just need goal scorers. Last season was really bad for goal scoring. The new formation that I'll pull up again for you, I think will help with this. Like, they look so much more fluid in pre-season, but again, that could really help. If Leicester still aren't using Inacho as often, a big bid for him. I think he's a really good player. I've liked him since his City days, and I think he's really impressive. He could really suit this Wolves play style. And the last one is, I've seen rumours that Neil Maupay from Brighton could be going for as low as 12 million. He is a very poor finisher when it comes to his XG, usually scoring under his expected goals, but he would still be a good depth option. And again, potentially he could work off of another striker to create space and have easier chances to finish. But yeah, thank you for listening. That's most of what I have about Wolves at the moment. As I said, all the signs in pre-season were really promising. I really enjoyed the games, and it really showed a progress and what Bruno Lage is trying to get to. Again, just a little bit more about what I'm hoping to achieve with this channel. It will be a mix of content. Like I say, the next video will probably be an FPL one, just talking about some of the options, who I think are good value players, who I think is sort of your must-haves, and just some of my opinion on that. I'm not a professional by any means, and I sort of average out in that sort of 2nd to 5th range in all the leagues I'm in. But, you know, there's a lot of bargains out there this season, and I'm quite confident on a few of them. Like I say, some of the next stuff will probably be some Pokemon Nuzlocke. Again, nowhere near a professional on those. A lot of the time I don't use any of the sort of stalling strats or different areas like that, or do calculations on damage, any of those sort of things. That's just not who I am. It's more bumbling through it with a little bit of thinking, which I find more fun than doing all the maths. And at the end of the day, this isn't a job. I'd love it to be, but it's not a job at the moment. It's just about having fun and just creating something. But yeah, so thanks for listening. If there's anything people want me to cover, anything people are curious about Wolves, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'll respond to any that I see. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of everyone's day.